I've said for years that on gold and silver, the numbers that we're going to go to are higher than anyone has projected of any number for gold or any number for silver. The actual number, I'm convinced, is going to be far higher than the most optimistic projection there is. And the reason being, gold and silver have been, what they've done is they've sold paper contracts against gold and against silver that don't exist. And we're going to move into a failure to deliver scenario. And when that happens, man is a funny animal. When you tell man he can't have something, he wants it that much more.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking literally trillions of dollars that are going to be dislodged from the stock market, from the bond market, even from the crypto markets. And all that money is going to be pointed toward gold and silver. Those markets, I mean, especially silver being so small, they cannot handle the type of capital that's going to be heading toward a safe haven or the safe havens. And one other aspect of man, fear is the greatest emotion there is. And people are going to be moving money into gold and silver, not out of greed because, I can buy gold at 50 and I can sell it at 100 or 200 or whatever. That's not going to be the motivator. The motivator is going to be fear of losing everything in other markets and putting that money into something that is a safe haven and cannot bankrupt. That's the whole key. They can't bankrupt in a world that is defaulting.
Well, you remember the big lines that we saw a month ago in China and in Australia and in other parts of the world, right, where people were just waiting like blocks in line from the entranceway of these different bullion sites. And there was no shortage of silver or gold or anything of that matter. It was just a huge price spike. One could argue that, was mainly driven by
shortage.
Go ahead.
There was a shortage.
That's true. There was in China. That's true.
There was in China, but also there were limits on the amount that customers could cash and carry out. So they did try to ration what supply they had.
Yeah, and that's like that's just a fraction of the kind of scenario that we're kind of thinking up in our heads, because there's no real. There was no danger of the fiat currencies are devaluing. You look at the money supplies of the U.S. dollar, the RMB, the euro, the Japanese yen, all of them. They're all going up at the same time. But there's no real imminent threat that your currency is going to be devalued to the point where you have to go out and spend whatever you have and procure the metals ASAP. But that was a very small sample of what was to come. And it was pretty big. Those lines were pretty big. Especially in Asia. Right.
Well, the biggest lines you don't see, and I don't see, nobody sees them. The biggest lines are the electronic lines.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get full-fledged movement from, family offices, hedge funds, they're smelling blood in the water. Once we get to that point, it's going to make what we've already seen look like not even just barely a starter.
It appears that crypto is highly correlated to the NASDAQ, which is atypical of a safe haven asset like gold, and to somewhat of an extent to silver as well. Silver does have some industrial usage too. But when I look at silver and I hear these arguments that silver is more industrial than monetary, but doesn't the fact that silver have utility kind of make it more valuable than gold? Or the fact that silver has more utility than gold, shouldn't that make it more valuable? Holding the supply side constant?
Well, silver's got many, many uses. It's not just industrial. You've got technological, you have medicinal. Go back hundreds of years. You remember the term, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Well, only the wealthy people could afford silverware. And the reason they used silverware was because the antibacterial
properties.
The antibacterial that properties of silver, right? Exactly. Gold is basically strictly money, And, silver for several thousand years was also money, but it has other uses. It has more uses than any other element on the planet.
Yeah. Well, I also know that, the fiat currencies are in trouble. We've looked at money supply on this channel before. Money supply, not just in the US, but across all the other currencies is going up. But you also have something else that's going up, and that is something you just brought to my attention before we hit record, and that is the Japanese 30-year yield. I mean, check this bad boy out. Currently at 3.337%. Well, this is an all-time high in the Japanese 30-year yield. So why is this something to keep an eye on, Bill?
You want to keep an eye on the Japanese interest rates and also the Japanese yen, because that is it's the bed, if you will, for the carry trade. The carry trade that had been put on. They were doing this back in the 90s, early 2000s. You could borrow in yen at low interest rates, and you could just turn around and buy U.S. Treasuries and make the spread, and that's fine as long as interest rates don't rise in Japan, and it's fine as long as the yen itself does not rise in value versus the dollar. It was a cheap way of funding, and it's being shut off. Not only is it being shut off, but it's turning some of these carry trades upside down because the rate to carry is higher and the cost to buy the Japanese yen back is higher. So the carry trades are blowing up. That's what that chart is showing you.
Right. But you also have the 30-year yield here on the U.S. side. I mean, that's also somewhat, that's still trading at a premium to the 30-year Japanese bond. Currently, you've got the 30-year at 4.73. Is the number to look out for? Is that when the when the Japanese 30-year begins to overtake the American 30-year?
Oh, yeah, well, that would certainly be a cause for alarm. But just this elevated level, if you're looking at the chart, it's straight up.
Yeah.
When is that going to stop, or does it stop?
So what is this implying about Japan's current status?
In my opinion, look at the debt to GDP level in Japan. They're at what, 300% or thereabouts.
Oof.
And you go back into the 1970s and early 80s. I remember when I was in college in the early 80s, any country that got to 100% debt to GDP, they were opening the door to Banana Republic land. And now there's hardly any countries around the world that are under 100% debt to GDP. The U.S., the issuer of the world's reserve currency, is at 130%. Back in 1980, the United States would have been considered a banana republic. And actually, as an aside, if you look at the rule of law and the things that are happening in the United States, there's an argument we are a banana republic, financially and judicially.
Well, it does appear like the controllers or the elites or whatever you want to call them, they're just plundering everything before this entire ship comes down. They got to get while the getting's good.
Right, and that goes along with what we've talked about before, the great taking. They know it's coming.
Isn't this 50-year
mortgage? One thing about that's a joke, the 50-year mortgage. That is absolutely hilarious. I posted, when the day that came out, I posted to my website, a couple articles on that, and that is so bad. That is so. Yes, it lowers the monthly payments, but it's putting people on the gerbil treadmill. or treadmill. It's just that is stupid, in my opinion. I did want to mention the other thing with gold and silver. You've got the two markets. You've got the paper market, and you've got the physical market. And for years and years and years, the paper market acted like the tail on a dog that wagged the dog. In other words, paper markets made pricing. They priced the market. The problem now, because with COMEX and with LBMA, you have buyers that are lining up to take physical off the exchanges. The problem is they can't print gold and they can't print silver. The only thing they can do is print contracts that, when all is said and done, they cannot perform, which makes them worth zero. All I'm getting at is the physical markets are taking over here.
Yeah. And we saw that happen a few weeks ago when we had this point of backwardation in silver. And now the gold spot market is getting awfully close to the futures price in gold as well.
Right. Yeah. Silver's still got slight backwardation. But I mean, all the lease levels, all the borrow rates, everything's elevated. It just reeks of a massive short squeeze.
And now, and you also have, I want to get your thoughts on this. You have Robinhood enabling short selling on their platform now. So you're effectively opening the floodgates for unlimited losses for the average retail investor who isn't, to be honest here, isn't really that knowledgeable and that savvy when it comes to investing to begin with. I mean, is this a sign of a bottom here or a top? Because I would think that, given the fact that the markets have been rather sluggish lately, and now they're introducing short selling, I mean, wouldn't this be a sign of a bottom here when it comes to the markets? What do you say?
I say it's the sign of end of empire.
Well, that's what we've been seeing lately is with Robinhood, and
it is what it is.
It's opened up gambling to everyone else.
Of an empire.
Mm-hmm.
Say again?
No. I mean, it's opened up the stock market akin to like some sort of gambling platform, like a casino. Let's say you've got like these predicted markets, these betting markets. Cool. I mean, it's all like it's like you said, Correct. It's end of empire.
But understand this: you're using the casino analogy. Understand this: the casino itself is bankrupting. So what you need to do is you need to cash your chips in now, get those chips out of the casino and out of chips. You got to convert your chips into something real, and that's basically you need to convert your fiat currencies to gold and silver, because the analogy of the casino being bankrupt, you've got sovereign treasuries all over the world that are upside down.
Now, there's many different roads to take when it comes to converting and allocating your capital into gold and silver. I know you're big into junk silver as a means, as kind of like a means to do so. Why is that? And I know you have some stuff that you want to talk about junk silver on. Why is junk silver?
Yeah, and this is
the way to go, in your opinion? This
is for non-IRAs. In an IRA, you've got to do a product that's 99.9 pure.
Mm-hmm.
Junk silver, I've been an advocate of junk silver for the last 10 plus years now. It's the smallest denomination of silver. In other words, 14 dimes equals 1 ounce. I think it's $1.38 equals 1 ounce.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you 14 transactions in a system down scenario. If you're going to barter, now you've got the smallest unit of silver. It's recognizable because everybody knows what a dime or quarter looks like. And as long as it says 1964 or earlier, you know it's 90% silver. It can't be counterfeited, because if somebody comes to you with a bright, shiny, brand new dime or quarter, it's probably fake, because junk circulated for years and years and years. It was in people's pockets. It should be scratched. It should be dirty. And on top of that, it is U.S. mint lineage coin. Now, the reason I wanted to talk today about junk is because the pricing on junk versus other forms of silver have temporarily collapsed. I think dealers are bidding $4 and $5 under spot if you go to sell it, and you can buy it at spot, maybe 25, 50 cents over spot. It's the cheapest form of silver available right now. The reason being, back in the late 70s and the early 80s, I'm not going to say it was the only means, but the primary means of Americans that wanted to buy silver, the junk silver, that was really all there was available for investors. So you had, I don't know, well, you've had years since then too, but you had 5 or 10 years there where people were accumulating silver. They saw the $50 peak. You had some buyers, of course, at that level or in the 40s, and they hung on for 20, 30 years plus. What's happened is a lot of that legacy silver, when the price got to $50, people started selling. People and large hoards have been sold. What's happened is the dealers don't want to hold all of that as inventory. So if they're bidding 5%, 7%, 9% under spot, they take that junk in, they send it to a refiner, they refine the silver out of it, and then they sell that silver on the spot market, and that's how they make their profit. The problem long term, now this is a short term problem because refiners are backed up. Some refiners are even refusing to take more junk in. They're backed up. But once this backlog gets done, the discount will abate. It'll come back to spot or above spot. And going forward, there's way less junk silver left in existence because it got melted down. So if you're buying silver today and it's not an IRA account, it's foolish to not buy junk silver. It's the best form for an American to own, and it's the cheapest.
And so how do you tell if something is real silver versus not? I know there's different tests one can do, but is there like, how do you go about it?
Well, that's why I say junk is the easiest to tell. Because first off, you could drop a coin on a counter and it's going to sound way, way different than a current coin. You just hear a little thud as opposed to a ping with the silver coins. But as long as the coin says 1964 or earlier, all dimes, all quarters, all half dollars, all silver dollars had, I take that back on silver dollars, but dimes, quarters, and half dollars, they were 90% silver, 10% copper.
Do you think they'll come for silver like they did? Go ahead.
That's your way to tell whether it's real or not.
Right.
Is the date on the coin.
Easy peasy. But there's also, you can also buy silver forks and spoons and silverware.
Correct.
Plates.
Yeah,
and, things of that nature too. You can just, things you can just find at a yard sale.
Yeah, but how are you going to barter that? If somebody, when the system goes down, if somebody comes to me with 1 ounce generic rounds or 10 ounce bars or 100 ounce bars, I don't really have the ability out in the field to test them. I rely basically when it gets sent into the wholesaler, they do the testing. So if it's not real, it'll be alerted right away. The most readily recognized form of silver that has proof positive that it's got 90% silver in it is junk silver. So for those of you who bought 100 ounce bars 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, because it was the cheapest form, It was the cheapest form because it's the poorest form. Your 100-ounce bars are not going to work for you when the system goes down.
What about during a great taking type of event where, you're not really dealing with a Mad Max scenario, but you're more so dealing with like a dystopian tyranny, let's say, of overreach of government? Will they come after our silver like they came after our gold back in the early 1900s?
Well, they didn't ever come after our gold. I mean, I think there was a dozen people got fined or had jail time. There was no door-to-door knocking. There will never be door-to-door knocking. Can you imagine how many deaths there would be the first day if you had federal agents going house to house? Give me your gold, give me your silver. I mean, there wouldn't be out in rural areas, there would not even be a discussion. There'd be a gunshot, the door would close, and that would be that. I do want to mention, you said about the great taking takes place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a Mad Max scenario. I disagree with that entirely. As soon as the great taking starts to take over and people are realizing that they've lost everything, you're going to have absolute anarchy. And by definition, I mean, it's going to be a Mad Max world.
So you think all roads lead to Mad Max as opposed to like a dystopian
I do.
technocracy?
Well, yes, it's going to be dystopian. There's no question about it. But there is going to be a period of time, and I've said many times, I don't know whether it's going to be for 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months. If we go more than 6 months, I mean that you're talking about a world that would make Mad Max the movie look like it's tame.
Oh, 90% of the population would just die off in 6 months. I mean, it's not just me just kind of saying this stuff out of nowhere, but there's been actual, studies and analyses on these. Like 6 months would kill 90% of the people out there.
Nobody knows how to hunt anymore. Nobody knows how to fish. Nobody knows how to provide for themselves.
And so what are some of the big takeaways one can have to arm themselves and prepare for, number one, a great taking, and then number two, the subsequent Mad Max that would come after it?
Well, you get your assets into a position where they can't be taken. If you own stocks, get the certificates. I mean, owning bonds is a fool's game because no matter what happens, the debt's going to go to zero anyway. I mean, you're not going to get paid back. But if you've got big, large bank balances, buy gold. That's out of the system. It can't be taken from you unless they come and take it from you. So your preparations is to get out of the system. That's one preparation. The other preparations are for your life. Do you have ability to have clean water? Do you have the ability to create electricity if the grid's down? Do you have food supplies? Do you have a way to protect your position? That's all